Welcome to Speak for Yourself. It is time to honor John Madden because John Madden never met me, but boy, did I meet him. See, I didn't grow up playing football, but my parents were born and raised in Nigeria, and football to them was the black and white object that you kick with your feet. But by 1999, I got my first Madden game, and that's when I fell in love with the game of football. See, in 1999, I realized two things about defense that day. When in doubt, you call engage 8. And if the computer is whooping up on you and they're trying to run out the clock, then line up in field goal block. They might audible to a pass play. You'll be able to stop the clock, and maybe you can win the game. A few years later, it was 2005. I was playing defensive end. My coach said, "Hey, Acho, if you want to play football in college, you got to switch to linebacker." Madden 2005 came out. Ray Lewis was on the cover. I instantly switched my jersey number to 52. And after switching to 52 and getting the neck roll, I realized, I might be able to do this thing if I stick my mind to it. But then 3 years later, I had a decision to make. Where was I going to play football in college? My brother was committed to the University of Texas, and that's when I realized, I don't know if I want to go to Texas, but Madden 08 came out. Vince Young was on the cover. Y'all know where Vince Young went. And as a result, I made a decision. It was very simple after that. See, John Madden impacted my life in ways that I didn't even realize until I stopped, paused, and reflected on them. But in addition to what he did with the video game, in addition to what he did in the broadcasting booth, John Madden also won a Super Bowl, which several teams are trying to win as well. So John Madden, just thank you for the life that you lived and the impact that you had. Now, speaking of Super Bowls and teams trying to win Super Bowls, none other than America's team, the Dallas Cowboys, once again on the hunt. Marcellus Wiley off today, joined now by co-host of The Herd, the one and only Joy Taylor. Now, Joy, I don't know if you heard Cliff Kingsbury. He came out and he said that the Dallas Cowboys have more talent than anyone else in football. He really said the Cowboys have enough talent to get the job done. So now my question to you is, do the Dallas Cowboys have a talented enough roster to take them to the Super Bowl?
I do believe they have a talented enough roster to take them to the Super Bowl. I am a pro-talent person, being talent myself. So this is what it is. We're in a competitive business in the broadcasting industry, and football is a competitive business. What do you need to win in a competitive business? You need talent. Cliff Kingsbury is absolutely right. He's also right to not give the Dallas Cowboys any bulletin board material leading up to their matchup while they're struggling. So I see what you're doing, Cliff. It's very smart. It's very Belichickian. Oh, he's a wonderful quarterback. He's a wonderful defense. Everything is wonderful when you're going up against an opponent. You don't want to give them any extra fuel, especially this defense, which is my favorite part of this Dallas team. I already know what Emmanuel Acho's brewing over there with Dak Prescott. I already know what's going on, but it's okay. It's fine, because I'm going to talk about the defense right now, which I know he can't poke holes in. That defense, who has held their opponents to 20 or fewer points in 4 straight and 6 of their last 7 games. Of course, they're first in takeaways, first on third down defense. Those are things that matter when it comes to the postseason. Those are things that get the offense of the other team off of the field, give it back to their offense, score more points, which is also something that Dallas defense does. We saw that a lot against Washington, albeit a struggling opponent, dealing with a lot of COVID issues, but so is everybody. And we know what they did to Washington this weekend. So yes, they have talent all across the board. You're talking about Ezekiel Elliott, Tony Pollard, CeeDee Lamb, Amari Cooper, Dak Prescott, Micah Parsons, Trevon Diggs, Jaron Kearse, DeMarcus Lawrence. All kinds of talent all across the board. They are definitely talented enough to get to the Super Bowl. I am not saying that they're there yet. I want to see what they do in the postseason, but they certainly have the roster to do it.
I don't think I've ever questioned the Cowboys' talent. I actually wholeheartedly agree with you. Now, you're not slick, first and foremost. Let me put you on blast. See, what y'all don't realize about Joy Taylor is she'll say one thing and then she'll try to massage the audience, posting on Instagram her love and affinity for the Cowboys. Y'all should hear her off mic. Boy,
no.
Look, I've never knocked the Cowboys talent-wise. Dak Prescott, quarterback-wise, he's talented enough. The receiving core, they have the best receiving core in football, in my opinion, unless the Tampa Bay Bucs receiving core is healthy. Running back combinations, they have one of the best running back backfields in the NFL. Zeke will get healthy by the time the playoffs roll around, especially if they can rest him against the Eagles, if they handle their business against the Cardinals. Defensively, you got Micah Parsons. You got Stephon Diggs. You got DeMarcus Lawrence. Talent, for me, has never been the question for the Cowboys. The problem with the Cowboys, they can't make all their talent add up, Joy. It's almost like that chef who you give all of the ingredients to, but somehow the meal just does not taste great. Mike McCarthy, he is that chef. Remember when the Packers won the Super Bowl? Mike McCarthy coached the Packers to a Super Bowl, for y'all that have forgotten. The Packers, though, were 10-6 that year. They were the underdog. They found a way to go on the road, win every game, en route to winning a Super Bowl. But the next year, Packers are 15-1. They're on top, and they get bounced in their first playoff game. This season has been a microcosm of Mike McCarthy's career because the Cowboys start off, nobody's really giving them that much credit. They start off 7-1, 6-1, go to the bye week, but now you're on top. Like when Mike McCarthy was 15-1 and got bounced in his first game. Come out of the bye week and all of a sudden the Cowboys lose. Broncos, Raiders, losses start to pile up. But now that he's the underdog again, the Cowboys start to roll. For me, it's never been about talent, Joy. It's always been about not having the proper chef in the kitchen with all of the masterful ingredients. I get that they got the talent like you have the ingredients, but they just don't, to me, have the ability to make it all work because of Mike McCarthy.
But Mike McCarthy won a Super Bowl.
He did.
Right? So there's multiple sides. You got special teams, you got defense, and you got offense. Not taking anything away from Aaron Rodgers, who we know is spectacular. But I'm just saying, he knows what it takes to get there. He has that experience. We've all been to an average restaurant with a great chef, right? Mm-hmm. When that great chef leaves, that restaurant usually fails. Mm-hmm. It goes back to being average. When you cook with better ingredients, even if you're an okay cook, right, the odds are the meal's going to taste a little bit better because you have fresher fruit.
True.
You have better spices.
Yep.
You have better utensils. Mm-hmm. It's just raising the level of what you're working with. You got better players than the other team.
I got a question for you.
Generally, unless you got a real crazy chef on the other side, you're going to win the game.
But here's the thing I don't think we think about enough in sports. Okay, I'm going to start somewhere and then I'm going to bring it all together. Nick Saban, he was a coach for the Miami Dolphins. Might have been the years you were in Miami.
Yeah, thank you, yes, yeah.
People assume Nick Saban underachieved. I don't think Nick Saban underachieved. Why don't I think Nick Saban underachieved? Because if you look at it, prior to Brian Flores, the Dolphins only won 9 games twice from 2000 to 2017. I don't have this in front of my notes, but if I'm committing my memory to honesty, I believe that to be true. Nick Saban was one of those 9-win seasons. The reason he won 6 games the next year, he had no quarterback. Starting quarterback got hurt. You were there. Okay, that's one myth in sports, is that Nick Saban wasn't very good with the Dolphins. Myth to me, because I told y'all, the Dolphins aren't very good. Nick Saban was better than anybody else who had been in the Dolphins 17 years. Another myth in sports, Doc Rivers. Ooh. Doc Rivers, in my mind, people think, well, he won with the Boston Celtics. Yeah, but at the point in which you have Ray Allen, Kevin Garnett, Rondo, Pierce, and all you got out of that was one title, to me, did you really underachieve? Did you overachieve, or did you just achieve? Why am I bringing up Saban? Why am I bringing up Rivers? Because let's talk about McCarthy. Brett Favre, Hall of Fame, first ballot. Aaron Rodgers, Hall of Fame, first ballot. And all you had to show for that is one Super Bowl. Super Bowls are clearly hard to come by. Unless you have, I don't know, maybe the greatest talented quarterback that's ever lived. Mike McCarthy won 13 games once with Aaron Rodgers. Matt LaFleur is about to win 13 games in the first 3 seasons with Aaron Rodgers. So you, like Marcellus Wiley, always come up here and tell me Mike McCarthy has won a Super Bowl. Shouldn't that count for something? But to which I simply retort, did he actually overachieve? Or based on the talent he had, maybe the greatest talented quarterback the game has ever seen, did he just achieve?
Well, by that standard, has Aaron Rodgers underachieved? Because he got one ring.
I'm not going to answer that.
Because he got one ring. Have the Packers underachieved with Brett Favre, first ballot Hall of Famer? Aaron Rodgers, first ballot Hall of Famer, 2 rings.
I would think so. I would honestly.
So by that standard, they've underachieved. So Mike McCarthy overachieved, and the Packers and Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers have underachieved, which I don't believe to be so, because I think championships are very, very, very hard to win. That's why they're such a big deal. We get a little wrapped up in the Patriots being there every single year and winning championships, start comparing to Tom Brady. And yes, we have greats who have won multiple championships, but I think it's not really just what Mike McCarthy is, who I think is a good coach and I think has shown the ability to move off of decisions. Brought in Dan Quinn this year, has been a tremendous improvement. All the defensive numbers that I mentioned earlier, he's responsible for, along with great talent acquisition, managing all of that talent. As we know, managing the Dallas Cowboys is a task all in its own. That is a living, breathing thing in Dallas, as we know, is America's team. So there are a lot of moving parts here. I'm not laying it just at the feet of Mike McCarthy as the chef. But if you want to say he's overachieving, you're proving my point even more. He's got fabulous ingredients as a average chef, And I'm going to lean into that's a pretty good scenario to make a long playoff run.
Well, you know what, Joy? This conversation is irrelevant. Why is it irrelevant? Because rings don't mean a thing, according to Damian Lillard. Lillard, Portland Trailblazers star player, he comes out and he says, I don't subscribe to this notion of winning championship rings. He says winning a championship ring isn't everything in basketball. That's what Damian Lillard said. Now, Damian Lillard might be right? Like, a championship ring isn't everything, but it sure ranks up there with oxygen, because, I kind of put some value into water in society. I kind of put some value into money in society. And if you play professional sports, you better put value into winning a championship ring. Now, I understand what Damian Lillard is trying to do. He's trying to do a psychological term called self-handicapping. Self-handicapping is simple. You lower the bar for yourself, so when you fail, you protect your self-esteem. Let me put it in layman's terms, y'all. Don't study for that final exam, because if you don't study for that final exam and you fail that final exam, well, you can tell yourself, hey, I didn't study. Damian Lillard, say you don't really care about rings, because if you don't win a ring, hey, I didn't care about it to begin with. I do not subscribe to the notion that we put too much value on winning a title, but Joy, you are in your Blazers colors, red and black. So where do you land on this one?
Undersell, over deliver, right? That's what you're talking about. I agree with you. What, this is intramural frisbee or something we're doing here? No, this is competition. You compete to win. Winning the ultimate thing is the championship. That's what everyone's playing for. So if you're just participating, then you're not really competing. Now, I don't know that I really believe that Dame feels this way, that winning a championship isn't everything. I do think that you can have a legendary career. You can have a significant contribution to the sport. You can be a Hall of Famer. You can be influential. You can be an all-time great without a ring.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, like all of those things are possible. We know the names that we always bring up: Charles Barkley, Dan Marino, but there's many others: Karl Malone, John Stockton, Bruce Smith, Jim Kelly. Like, nothing about their careers is diminished in that they didn't win a championship, except for we mentioned that they didn't win a championship. And I think if you would talk to them and they were truthful about it, that it would have meant something more, even with the Hall of Fame, even with the grace that we give them, the honor that we give them as all-time greats, that they would have that ultimate win in a championship. So it's undersell, over deliver here. Yes, winning a championship matters. Yes, competing for the ultimate goal matters. You are a successful person. How did you become successful? Goals. That's what it is. You can say, I want to be successful. Successful at what? I don't know. Good luck with that. You have to have a goal. The goal is to win a championship. Otherwise, you're just participating.
Now, in my mind, you're the more talented of the Taylors, but how many sacks did your brother have? Do you remember off the top of your head?
No, many.
Okay. He had too many. He had 139. What they say about elite pass rushers is this. In football, they say stop the run on the way to the quarterback. At the end of the day, if you're a pass rusher, the objective is to get sacks. That is the ultimate goal. That is the objective. Stop the run on the way to the quarterback. To me, it's the same thing with titles. You accomplish all of these other things on the way to a title. You accomplish all of your other sub-goals, all these other sub-dreams, all these other sub-objectives on the way to the ultimate objective, which is a ring. You don't write a book just to write a book, just to watch your fingers move. You write a book, hopefully, to become a bestseller. Now, you want to move the hearts of the world, and you want to get your thoughts into the space. You don't come up with a song just to write a song. You create a song to win a Grammy. Now, you might want to just write about an ex, or write about your parents, or write about your first love. You don't star in a movie just to star in a movie. You star in a movie to win an Oscar. Now, you might want to tell a phenomenal story about the way culture is traversed and shift over the course of time. But everything you do is en route to an ultimate goal. So Dame Lillard has to make sure that whatever he is doing, he is en route to the ultimate goal, because the fun is in winning. And if you don't win, I don't see how you have fun.
You're talking about the separation between art and business. Because, yes, there's lots of people that write songs out of pure passion. There are a lot of artists that make art out of pure passion. Yes, there are a lot of people that do a lot of creative things, not with the goals or the imagination of winning Oscars and Grammys.
But I think that is like their. Here's what I genuinely think.
No, I strongly disagree. I think there are a lot of artists that truly live in the space of their creativity. And in many ways, very rarely do those people pass over into the transcendent greats, because they live solely in the passion. They don't live in the macro.
Yes, but here's my thought. I think people who act as though they don't care about awards is because they weren't going to get the awards. Let's call it real, y'all. Like, y'all all have that friend, y'all all have that person. Man, I wasn't checking for them anyway. Yeah, because you weren't going to get them. So it behooves you not to check for them because they weren't checking for you either. It behooves Dame Lillard not to check for a title because as long as he's in Portland, a title's not checking for Dame Lillard. So it's in your best interest to go ahead and act like you don't care to preserve yourself of the rejection. I do wholeheartedly agree with you. There are thousands of people, and I have met them, and you will meet all of them if you live in L.A., who I don't care about a Tony, a Grammy, an Oscar. I'm doing this because I love it. Absolutely. But you sure would love to win it as well. The only time, I don't want to say it's loser talk because Dame Lillard is the furthest thing in the sport from a loser, but it's definitely giving yourself a pillow and a mattress to lie on, is it not?
Yeah, well, I think it's the difference between passion and business. We know people who do things just to spend time doing them. Mm-hmm. And then there are people who do things for a living.
Correct. And
there's a difference between an amateur and a professional.
Bingo.
So Dame Lillard is the ultimate professional. He's the ultimate competitor. We know what he can do on the biggest stage. That's why I find this comment very strange. And I don't know that I really believe that he feels this way. Like, this is what competition is about. This is what it is winning the ultimate goal, which is a championship. Again, I don't think it defines or diminishes anyone who is at the top of the sport, their career. I don't think it diminishes in that way. We don't think of Dan Marino as a loser. We don't think of Dan Marino
as... But we don't think of him as a winner. Because he wasn't.
We don't think of him as a champion. We don't think of him as a champion.
Okay, we got to stay here longer. Sorry, we're going to talk about LeBron. We're doing that later. Matthew Stafford, we don't think of him as a winner. We obviously also don't think of him as a champion. Now, I know you have a great
I don't think of Matthew Stafford as Dan Marino either.
We don't, but I'm simply saying this. Only 8 quarterbacks in the history of the NFL have 5,000-yard seasons. Dan Marino, mind you, yes, he's one of the 8, and he is one of the 8 who did it first. So put respect on Dan Marino's name. He had a 5,000-yard season when nobody was passing for 5,000 yards. The others that do, Drew Brees, champion. Tom Brady, champion. Aaron Rodgers, champion. Patrick Mahomes, champion. You got Jameis Winston in there. We will not talk about him. But you have Matthew Stafford. Now, I'm not comparing Matthew Stafford to Dan Marino, albeit I do think Matthew Stafford will find his way into the Hall of Fame. He is a fringe Hall of Famer in my mind. But Dan Marino, we just view as one of the greats, but we don't view him as a winner, nor do we view him as a champion. Charles Barkley, we just view as one of the greats. He's in a league MVP, but I don't think we view him as a winner, nor do we view him as a champion. I think that Dame Lillard, we just view him as a baller.
I think you can be a winner and not be a champion. You are a champion if you have a ring. What do you mean? So Matthew Stafford is not a winner at all.
I don't think we view him as a winner. I think there's two different things, right? I think you can live in reality and you can live in narrative form. In reality, is Matthew Stafford a winner? I think he's probably won more games than he's lost. I'm not pulling it up. I'm sure they'll get to me in my ears. I'm talking.
Well, he was also in Detroit, so we have to say
right,
of course.
I think he's won more games than he's lost, but how can you be a winner if you ain't won nothing? Because the only thing that matters is playoff games and Super Bowl. So you a winner at what? Regular season?
I don't know. I don't know that Matthew Stafford is the name that I want to use here because I view Dame in a different light than I view Matthew Stafford at this point. Because I kind of agree with you. I don't know that Matthew Stafford is a winner. He hasn't won at any high level yet. He hasn't won.
Right.
He hasn't gone through any of the gauntlets to determine if he's a winner or not. But at the point in which you're playing in NBA finals habitually, at the point in which you are Jim Kelly going to multiple Super Bowls, you are a winner. You're just not a champion.
Sure.
There are different levels to this. And I agree with you. Like, we're on the same page as far as what Dame said. The goal is to win a championship. If you would talk to Jim Kelly, if you would talk to Dan Marino, if you would talk to Charles Barkley, and they were honest about it, they would say it meant something to my career to win a championship. I feel accomplished. I'm a Hall of Famer. I've contributed to the game. They are all legends. No one would argue that. But there is something to winning a championship because that's what you play for.
Absolutely. And somebody has done a whole lot of winning. Not Dame Lillard, but LeBron James. Now, I think LeBron James deserves a lot more credit this season. The Lakers are only sitting at 17-18. They're a fringe playoff team. They're a bubble team, y'all, if you could believe that. But LeBron James is averaging 27, 7, and 7. LeBron James has more 30-point games this year than anybody else in the league. And he's only played in 23 games this year. He got 13 30-point games, and he's only played in 23. Now, I get it. The Lakers are not doing very well, but that has not stopped LeBron James from balling. However, we ain't talking about it. I think LeBron James deserves a lot more credit this season, even though the Lakers are atrocious right now. Big picture. Joy, does LeBron deserve more credit this season?
I think he does, yes. I'm not going to go over the numbers that you just mentioned. You just listed them all beautifully. He's putting up an incredible amount of stats and numbers and playing a ridiculous amount of minutes this year. I think he deserves more credit than ever because he's overcoming once again, situation with Anthony Davis. We all know what this roster is. We knew what it was before the season started. We knew it was going to be a little bit of an uphill battle having the oldest roster in the league. That was a potential problem. If you are dealing with any kind of injury when you have the oldest roster, that could potentially fall apart very quickly. Obviously, LeBron is aging as well, and we don't consider when we talk about LeBron, which I think is what's most impressive about this season, is that when we talk about how many years he's played, when we talk about how many minutes he's playing this year, you're not often considering the amount of times he's played all the way through the postseason. You don't consider all of those minutes, hard minutes, overcoming minutes, playing through injuries we don't know about minutes. So you have to consider that when you talk about how long LeBron has played and what he's doing this season with the Lakers with an aging roster. To me, dealing with Anthony Davis being injured again, he was supposed to be the guy that was going to step up this year. He was going to be able to compensate for any kind of these injuries that they were going to deal with having an old roster. LeBron not having to play so many minutes, and here he is again injured. I know everyone wants to place the blame at Russell Westbrook's feet, who admittedly has done what Russell Westbrook does. So I don't even know if it's to blame. Russell Westbrook is to blame for this.
Do you fault LeBron James for the construction of the roster? Because say what you will,
yes,
he's a GM.
He's not the GM, but every single one of these moves was approved by him, of course, as we know. Yes. Not directly, of course. But no, look, we know what LeBron is at this point. We know he has say in the roster. We know he's going to approve who comes here. We know he's going to have influence over who is on this team and who is not on this team. That's the way that it goes. So I do think he does have to examine how this was put together and what moves they can make moving forward. But he has been able to overcome this with the minutes that he's playing and the numbers that he's putting up in this age with all of these minutes and years and extra time that he's played through the postseason, and I do think that's impressive.
Now, Joy talked about the numbers that LeBron James is putting up. Let me put the numbers up because y'all can see just how amazing he is. Now, there are a lot of players, not really a lot of great players that average 27, 5, and 5. That in and of itself is an extremely exclusive list. You can't get into that club unless you are a future Hall of Famer. 27, 5, and 5. That list is big. Now you got the likes of Kevin Durant, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Steph Curry. That's 27, 5, and 5. But there's an even more exclusive club if you talk about 27, 7, and 6. Now 27, 7, and 6. Now it's LeBron, KD, and Giannis. We're talking about NBA MVPs. But the most exclusive club, the club that only LeBron James lies in, 27, 7, and 7. That's when you just see one name, the King. So though the Lakers are not balling this year, LeBron James is more than doing his part. Coming up, we got to talk about Baker Mayfield, y'all. He got 2 games left, and I think his future in Cleveland will be decided by these 2 games if he does one of these 2 things. That's next on Speak for Yourself, brought to you by Popeye's Mac and Cheese. Try the new and improved recipe today. Boy, I'm hungry, but I got to fit into these suits. Welcome back to Speak for Yourself. Now, one starting NFL quarterback might lose his job. That's Baker Mayfield. And he might lose his job if he does not get right in the final 2 games of the season. So much is at stake for Baker Mayfield these last 2 games of the season. I'll put it like this. Everybody has salt in their cupboard. But if the salt loses its saltiness, what y'all do? Y'all throw it out because it ain't good for nothing. If a quarterback loses his ability to quarterback, then what do? You discard him because he's not good for anything. Baker Mayfield, to me, is the franchise quarterback of the Browns. I do not think Baker Mayfield is a franchise quarterback. Notice, there's a difference. To be a franchise quarterback, you can start for any team. But to be a franchise quarterback for the Browns, then you are the franchise quarterback for your team. I believe that going into the season. But as I've watched the season unfold, Baker Mayfield has shown me nothing except for the fact that he's tough. But being tough, y'all, it's a prerequisite in the NFL. I mean, being tough is what we assume you are by playing in the NFL. Can't hang your hat on being tough. So the final 2 games of the season, Baker Mayfield has to prove that he can play well. He hasn't played well in a win for the Browns this season. He played well against the Chargers. Justin Herbert played better. So I got to see Baker Mayfield come out there, ball, and do so in a winning performance. Because if he does not do so, if he doesn't do so over the last 2 games of the season, I don't know why the Cleveland Browns would not trade him. Find somebody to take him. I don't care who you trade him for, but they're going to find somebody to take him. To me, that's what's at stake. But Joy Taylor, What's at stake for Baker Mayfield the final 2 games of the season?
Oh, yeah, everything you just said. His future in Cleveland.
You agree with me?
I know. We're agreeing on a lot today. I'm a little nervous.
On speaker.
I'm a little nervous. No, I've been a defender of Baker for a long time, mainly because, as you know, I was born and raised in Pittsburgh, where we have, lots of Lombardis. We got so many Lombardis, we don't even know where to keep them anymore. I might be in wild before we get another one of those, but we play the Browns all the time in the AFC North. And for most of my adult life, they've been really bad. Baker has not only made them interesting and relevant, but they have been competitive. That's a different world. Mm-hmm. Now, he's had lots of head coaches, as we know, lots of adversity through the beginning of his career, which isn't entirely on him. The Browns were a dysfunctional organization for a long time. But that ain't the situation anymore. They've got a great GM. They've got a coach of the year in Kevin Stefanski. And what's most interesting about how bad Baker has been, because it's actually a pretty difficult thing to do. When you're a team that is constructed like the Cleveland Browns, and we talk a lot about the roster of the Cleveland Browns and the playmakers that they have and all of that, but they're good in the trenches. Mm-hmm. So it's really actually kind of difficult to be as bad as Baker has been when you are a team that is constructed the way that the Browns are. Everyone would love a great offensive line. Every time we talk about having a new quarterback, got to get him an offensive line. Like that you can just go to the offensive line store and buy extra offensive linemen. It's hard to build a good offensive line. They have a good offensive line in Cleveland. They have a good defensive line in Cleveland. It is really difficult to make things as hard on the Cleveland Browns as Baker has on the field when you are good in the core of what you are. They run the ball so well. You're good in the trenches on both sides of the ball, and you run the ball well, and you're still struggling this way. So now you're in the way. And I understand Baker's banged up. But here's the problem with the banged up situation. You can play hurt. You can't play injured. If you are so banged up that it is affecting your ability to play at a competent level, then you are now hurting the team. You're injured. Mm-hmm. That means you're not in the game. Because if you're on the field, you are expected to contribute to the level that you contribute.
She preaching.
Because that's what football is. Yeah. Now, me, personally, if I got anything messed up, it ain't going to be a good day for me, right? Like, I don't have my right pen. It's a disaster of a show, okay? But that's me. I'm soft. Football players have a certain level of expectation of the level they're supposed to compete at while also dealing with injuries, as you know. So it's actually pretty staggering what's happened with the Browns this year, and it is on Baker. His performance this year was supposed to be at another level. I mean, we were talking about the Cleveland Browns as Super Bowl contenders at the start of the season. Some people were. That is not the case. So, yes, his future in Cleveland is at stake over the next 2 games.
She's not lying. She threw a fit when they gave her a blue pen instead of a black pen. Back to Baker Mayfield, though. So, Baker, you made a phenomenal point. So many people are like, Baker Mayfield, he flew off the plane. Remember, the Browns lost to the Packers on Saturday. Baker Mayfield threw 4 interceptions, y'all. 4 interceptions and 36 passes. For context, Aaron Rodgers has thrown 4 interceptions and 475 passes. Aaron Rodgers has 4 interceptions this season. Baker Mayfield had 4 interceptions in 1 game against the Packers. Why am I bringing that up? Because people said, well, Baker Mayfield just got off the plane, Acho. He had COVID. Like, he wasn't prepared. Give him some grace. It is the National Football League. If you step on the field, you leave all the excuses on the sidelines. It's a lot of things you can bring with you onto a football field. You can bring your helmet. You can bring your cleats. You can bring a towel. You can bring your gloves. But you can't bring excuses. That's the one thing you can't bring onto a field with you. So we have to leave the excuses on the sideline. You brought up the offensive line store. I wish there was such a thing, right? Can I get 1 offensive tackle?
Can I get a left tackle,
2
please?
guards, please. Let me just get a side of a center. But I know this much. When you talk about stores, they teach you one thing. Don't cry over spilled milk. Some Browns people are like, well, Baker Mayfield, we already picked up his 5th-year option. It's spilled milk. They say you don't cry over spilled milk because there's no point in being upset over something you can't change. But what you can do with spilled milk is sweep it up and throw it in the trash. So Baker Mayfield, they've picked up his 5th-year option. Baker, Case Keenum, they total $25 million next year in salary. Case Keenum, the backup quarterback for the Cleveland Browns. But their salaries combined still only rank 10th in the NFL. There are 9 other starting quarterbacks that make more money than Baker and Case combined. If Baker does not ball these next 2 games, then the Browns are simply going to use him as trade bait. Some of y'all might be thinking, well, Acho, who the heck gonna trade for Baker Mayfield? Joy Taylor brought it up phenomenally last Friday on a show, I believe, saying that, like, there's a market for quarterbacks and there aren't a lot of good ones out there. If Baker doesn't play well these next 2 games, does he play another game in Cleveland next year?
I don't believe so, but the one thing that does give me pause about this Cleveland Browns situation, and I might have said it earlier this year, is that because they have been so dysfunctional and because the quarterback market is so bleak and because we know that the draft is light on quarterbacks this year, what is your alternative?
Okay.
What are you going to replace Baker Mayfield with? Now, we know Baker is struggling at the highest level. That's why we're having this conversation. He's 6-7 on the season, lost 6 of his last 9 starts, 15 touchdowns, 14 giveaways, on pace for a career low in touchdown percentage, career low in passing yards per game, passer rating since 2019. According to Pro Football Focus, he's ranked 27th in the league. Trevor Siemian, Justin Fields, and Sam Darnold are behind him. Those are not great names to be behind. Mm-hmm. That's not a group that you want to be in if you're a starting quarterback for a team that at the beginning of the year we were talking about competing for a championship, however much of a dream that might be. But because we're having that conversation about them potentially being a team that is constructed to win a championship, you can't have someone holding you back, especially at that position. But what's the alternative?
Yeah.
What's the alternative to Baker Mayfield?
Here's the issue, though. Yesterday, I brought up this quote, and I truly live by it in part. The guy who had it good and wanted it better made it worse. The guy who had it good and wanted it better made it worse. But there's a dichotomy there. The dichotomy is good is the enemy of great. And so Baker Mayfield is good, but good will always and forever be the enemy of great. Do you sit content in a relationship with Baker Mayfield knowing that there can be better out there? But I am typically with you, Joy Taylor. Remember, I was drafted to the Cleveland Browns. My guy, Colt McCoy, backup quarterback for the Arizona Cardinals, he was our starter at the time. We drafted in the same draft as me, Brandon Weeden. Brandon Weeden could not get it done. Colt McCoy could not get it done. Johnny Manziel could not get it done. Robert Griffin could not get it done. Brady Quinn could not get it done. Tim Couch could not get it done. Jason Campbell could not get it done. Seneca Wallace could not get it done. Somebody with the last name Detmer, I don't remember which one of them it was, could not get it done. Essentially, nobody has been able to do what Baker Mayfield can do, which does lead me to believe you have it good. If you want it better, you might make it worse. But remember, y'all, in life, good is also the enemy of great. Coming up, I got to tell you, will the Cowboys' star-studded defense be intimidating everybody in the playoffs? They just might. That's next. Speak for yourself. Cowboys aren't making a playoff run. Not possible. One and done. To make a playoff run, you have to beat playoff teams. Dak Prescott versus non-playoff teams over the course of his career. 33-10, but playoff teams 9-17. But let's zoom in a little bit, shall we? Dak Prescott this year 8-2 versus non-playoff teams, 2-2 versus current playoff teams. To assume that Dak Prescott and the Cowboys are going to make a playoff run is to assume a statistical anomaly. I genuinely am not a pessimist. I'm not a Cowboys hater. I still got 214 and my area code and my zip code is still 75240. My mail still goes to mom and pop's house. I'm just a truth teller. For the Cowboys to make a playoff run, you're hoping on a coin flip. Welcome back to Speak for Yourself, and one of the most intimidating things in all of sports right now, the Dallas Cowboys defense. Lead the league in takeaways, and the only thing that matters in the game of football is the football itself. Cowboys have Trayvon Diggs, 11 interceptions, the most we've seen since, the 1980s. He's 3 picks away from tying an NFL record, 4 picks away from breaking it. They have Micah Parsons, 13 sacks. As a rookie, y'all. 1.5 sacks away from breaking Javon Curse's record. The Cowboys defense is about as intimidating as there is in all of football. Nobody wants to see them. Except for the Philadelphia Eagles. Here is why. What the Cowboys do worse, and there is only one thing. I promised y'all, America, they do everything else great, except for this one thing. What they do worst is stopping the run. Okay, Acho, Cowboys are 12th best in stopping the run. They only give up the 12th most yards a game. What are you talking about? Look closely. Look closely. Look closely. The Cowboys are actually 24th out of 32 teams in yards given up per rush. The problem, nobody can stay in the game long enough with the Cowboys to exploit the one weakness that they have. When the Cowboys let the Patriots stay in the game because Mike McCarthy went for it on 4th down in his own territory, what did the Patriots do? They took a lead and they almost beat the Cowboys. When Mike McCarthy did the same thing against the Denver Broncos, went for it on 4th down twice to start the game and didn't get it, the Broncos took the lead and won the game. The Philadelphia Eagles lead the NFL in rushing attempts. They lead the NFL in rushing yards. They're 3rd in the NFL in rushing touchdowns. So while everybody needs to be afraid of the Cowboys defense in the playoffs, there's one team that doesn't, and that's the Philadelphia Eagles. But Joy, does anyone want to face the Cowboys defense in the playoffs?
Well, you not slick. I should have known you were going to come up here with some Eagles love. You are not slick. No, the Eagles don't want these problems. They're going to run the ball the whole game. They're going to do a Mac Jones, Bill Belichick.
They might.
They might. They better hope so, because the Cowboys are 1st in takeaways and 3rd down defense and tied in 7th for points per game. Held their opponents to 20 points in 4 straight and 6 of their last 7 games. This Cowboys defense is for real. What did Collinsworth call them? Freaky? They're freaky. You named all the names. I don't need to go through it. Micah Parsons, Trayvon Diggs. They got playmakers everywhere. So unless they plan on pulling a Mac Jones, Bill Belichick in Buffalo in a nor'easter, they are going to have some problems. Jalen Hurts is still a young quarterback. And let's not forget the fact that when they're off the field, it is Dak Prescott. It is Ezekiel Elliott. I have a lot of respect for what the Philadelphia Eagles has done this year. I'm happy to admit I was very wrong about the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, we don't know what they are as of yet, despite this masterful presentation by Emmanuel Acho here for the Philadelphia Eagles. I still think that they are a developing team and they're a little bit ways away from making a run, but they are way better than I thought they were going to be this year, which was essentially a disaster. I do like Jalen Hurts. And you are right. They are a great, great running team. But this Dallas Cowboys defense is different, freaky. And unless they plan on doing that Bill Belichick move, I do think that they're going to have some problems.
Well, styles do make fights. And again, I'm not saying that the Eagles are in totality as good as the Cowboys. That would be asinine. And though I played for the Eagles and they paid me not a lot of money, but enough to live. Though I played for the Eagles, I am not that wild. I just know that what the Eagles do best, the Cowboys actually do worse. Styles make fights, which is why I so often whoop up on Bucky Brooks, NFL analyst, and I could not be more eager than to see Bucky right now. So, Bucky, does anybody want to face the Cowboys defense in the playoffs, big dog?
I am actually so glad that you brought up fights because I know how much you love the fight game. And I saw that you erroneously tagged the Dallas Cowboys as Jake. You call him Jake Paul? Is that what you called him? You call him Jake Paul? That's what they do. They go and knock out tomato cans. You call him Jake Paul. So the good thing about Jake Paul is I'm thinking the Philadelphia Eagles are Trayvon Woodley. And so if they do face off, I think someone is going night-night and going to sleep because we can talk about the Cowboys defense and, oh, man, they are a problem because when I look at the young fellas that they got balling, you have Randy Gregory, who's still young, even though he's been in the league for about 6 years. And then you have Michael Parsons, you have Trayvon Diggs. DeMarcus Lawrence has enjoyed a little load management, so he's fresh to death. And what they're doing is they are a team that is used to playing with the lead. And so you can talk about the Eagles running the ball and doing 3 yards in a cloud of dust, but it's hard to do that when the offense, the Cowboys offense, is putting up points. Because then it becomes a game where you have to chase points. That means you have to throw the ball. That means you have to drop back and deal with that ferocious pass rush, or you got to throw it to those ball hawking defenders. And as you like to talk about it, it is all about the ball when we talk about the National Football League. Can you take the ball away and can you protect it? No one does it better at taking it away than the Dallas Cowboys. So I really don't know what we're talking about when we talk about who can deal with the Dallas Cowboys, particularly the Philadelphia Eagles. Yes, the Dallas Cowboys are a problem. And yes, we're going to have to talk about them not only in the divisional round, but in the championship round. And lo and behold, in L.A., the Dallas Cowboy fans are coming to see us because I expect them to be in Super Bowl 56 with their defense leading the way.
Bucky, whatever you are on, boy, do I want some of it, because I just drink water, sir. Now, Bucky, let's be real. Again, Matthew Stafford, Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, Kyler Murray, all those quarterbacks and all those teams are better than the Philadelphia Eagles. So let me preface by saying that. Other things people might say, Acho, shut the heck up. Cowboys beat the Eagles 41-21 when they saw them week 3. Let me give y'all statistics, because there's one thing on this show we must abide by. Facts over feelings. Eagles started off 2-5. They were passing the ball 35 times a game, 34.7 to be exact. Since then, the Eagles are 6-2, and they only pass the ball 24 times a game, 23.9 to be exact. So with that being said, the Eagles have completely changed their approach. Nick Sirianni, a rookie head coach, was like, you know what? Hey, let's go out here and pass the ball. That's who I'm known for. That's what I do. And he said, you know what? Okay, Jalen Hurts is a better runner than any other passer right now. Miles Sanders is a phenomenal running back. Let's start running the ball. I don't know what you mean 3 yards in a cloud of dust, Buggy. Eagles average 5 yards a carry. Do the math, carry the 2, 5 times 2, that's a first down. So it ain't no 3 yards and no clouds of dust, big dog. That's a first down every 2 carries. Again, I don't want to make this an Eagles block, although I do. However, the Cowboys defense is great, and you are exactly right. But I'm simply saying the Cowboys get a lead, and they dismantle everybody else because they have a lead. But if y'all look closely at the games the Cowboys have lost, whether it's the Buccaneers, whether it's the Raiders, whether it's the Broncos, or the games they've played close, whether it be the New England Patriots, it's because you let a team stay in it early. Nobody wants to see this Cowboys defense. Nobody wants to see this Cowboys defense. But a running football team like the Eagles and or the Niners, the Eagles just do it better. That's the only team, I think, that could intimidate this Cowboys defense. And if not intimidate them, manipulate them.
Okay, so here's the thing. I think you brought up a great point when you pointed out about the Broncos and the Raiders and those teams because they're in the AFC. So I'll give you that. The Cowboys may not want to see an AFC team, but the great news is they won't see an AFC team to the Super Bowl. So then we talk about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And those Tampa Bay Buccaneers, from the first week of the season, where they don't have Chris Godwin anymore, Mike Evans is dealing with a couple complications. You now have AB being your number one receiver. And can we really trust that he's going to be available if they do match up in the playoffs? And so I'm looking at them and I'm saying, I don't know if the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are really the same version that we saw in week 1, which is a shootout in Tampa. So now we're talking about a different mix. And then you keep throwing out Matthew Stafford. I feel like you must be Matthew Stafford's publicist because the same guy that has a tough time taking care of the ball, we now are going to ask him to take care of the ball against the most prolific turnover-producing defense in the Dallas Cowboys. To me, that's another win for the Dallas Cowboys. You tried out maybe your Texas homeboy, Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray and the Arizona Cardinals, I'm still waiting for them to win a game this month. And so why are we talking about them being a viable contender when they can't win games at the end of the year and they're led by your favorite coach, Cliff Kingsbury, who you said yesterday can't win a game? What are we talking about? I just feel like sometimes you can't go home again, and maybe you can't go home again, and that's why you always hit on the Cowboys. I just feel like you refuse to give Dak Prescott and company their props, even when you're talking about the defense of the ball. It's okay to be okay with America's team. You're American. Give it up for America's team.
First off, Bucky Brooks, I can go to Dallas whenever I want, but thankfully my assistant, shout out Megan, is in Dallas right now, so she can do all the work for me from there. So I don't have to go to Dallas. Anyway, Joy, what we are talking about is the Cowboys defense. I got to ask you this, though. Is it problematic that a team that has a quarterback making $75 million this year, a running back making $90 million, a wide receiver making $100 million, which isn't their first-round pick at wide receiver from last year, 2 offensive linemen that are going to the Hall of Fame, but we're talking about their defense. Is that a good thing because, hey, the defense is balling? Or is it a bad thing because we're talking about $100 million, $75 million, $90 million, but we're not actually talking about them. We're talking about the defense. Is that problematic for the boys?
Nope. It does not matter to me at all. I don't care at all. The money thing is what Jerry does. You know Jerry's going to spend some money on his guys. We know that. Jerry loves his guys, and Jerry makes money, and this is America's team, so he's going to write them checks. I'm perfectly fine with that. I'm cool with that if I'm Dak. I made all this money. I'm fine with it. Let the defense get the praise. I don't need to be the one that's making all the plays. I don't need to be the reason why we win. I do need to be the reason. I don't want to be the reason why we lose. That's more important to Dak. And that's what I think is really impressive about this Dallas team, because it is America's team. And we are talking about all these stars, and we're talking about Jerry Jones and the Cowboys fans and all of this. But I actually think it's a great thing that we're not focusing solely on the offense. When you look at the Super Bowl last year, you talk about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who are obviously still a great team, although dealing with a lot of issues, as Bucky just mentioned. Did they really win that Super Bowl because of Tom Brady's greatness or because of their defense? If you really watch that game, taking nothing away from the GOAT, obviously, that was a win by Tampa Bay and their defense. And I think Tom Brady would agree with that. They were unbelievable. So, and when you're at this point in the season, winning ugly doesn't matter to me. Get the dub, go into the postseason with some momentum, healthy, getting guys back, and playing with things that travel. What do we know travels? Run game, as you mentioned. and defense. So finesse offense, putting up a bunch of points, winning all these shootouts, that's fun. Keep that in the middle of the season. At this point in the season, I want to be winning exactly the way that Dallas is.
At least Dallas is winning. Speaking of a team that isn't, the Giants. So why are they bringing back Joe Judge? Where should Russell Wilson play next season? And the Chargers, why are they 7-8? Simple questions. We got some complicated answers. Can't wait for that. That's next. Speak for yourself. Don't go anywhere. Sometimes in life, there's some very simple questions, but they have complicated answers. Like, I don't know, why is it cold in San Francisco in the summer? It just doesn't make any sense. So that's what we're bringing you right now. Simple questions with complicated answers. First up, the Giants. They had a better record by win percentage last year than this year, still coached by Joe Judge. And ownership has come out and they've stood behind Joe Judge, saying, we are going to back him, bring him and Daniel Jones into next season. It doesn't make any sense to me. So, Joy, I'm going to ask you a very simple question. Why are the Giants bringing back Joe Judge?
Well, the Giants are a patient organization. They're a conservative organization. They don't overreact. And I don't actually think this is the wrong move. I don't think 2 years is long enough for any coach to put together any culture or build any kind of momentum. I know there's a lot of reasons why things are falling apart with the Giants, but I would actually keep Gettleman and Joe Judge for another year, see what happens. If it doesn't work, if they can't build anything next year, then start a new regime. Because if they fire Gettleman and bring in a new GM, then Joe Judge is not going to be his guy. Daniel Jones is already not Joe Judge's guy, and so on and so forth. It just creates more ridges. They need a solid foundation, and 2 years is not enough for Joe Judge to build that.
Look, I don't know why they're keeping Joe Judge. I don't know what they're doing. It's going to be the same thing. The Giants are scared of change. They don't want to change to get outside of the way that they've always done things. That's why they always get the same results. And so until they change everything from top to bottom, coaching, front office, they're going to continue to be mired in mediocrity and behind the Cowboys and others in that division.
I like that. I guess that is an answer, albeit I like y'all's thoughts. I hate the answer itself. Okay, Bucky, I have a simple question for you because going into the season, I was told that Justin Herbert was the future. Brandon Staley, one of the brightest minds in all of football. You have great wide receivers out there for the Chargers. You have a really good running back. You have a Pro Bowl safety. You have phenomenal pass rushers. But I looked up, and the Chargers, they 8-7, Bucky Brooks. Somebody has to tell me, Bucky, why are the Chargers 8-7?
That's because Brandon Staley is going through a little on-the-job training. It is hard being a head coach when you've never been a head coach. There's not a new responsibility that you have to navigate through. You have to figure out, how cute do I want to be when it comes to dealing with the analytics? Do I want to be the guy that's smarter than everybody in the room? Or do I want to win games in a traditional sense? Brandon Staley is still trying to figure out where he fits in terms of his coaching style. That's why the Chargers are 8-7. The head coach hasn't figured out how to really head coach.
Okay.
I agree, Bucky. It's first-year head coach in Brandon Staley, and Justin Herbert is in his second season. Let's not act like he's some savvy veteran, as incredible as he was last year. First time with the Chargers offensive coordinator, first time with the Chargers as defensive coordinator. Also, their defense is 29th in rushing defense, second to last in points per game allowed. It's a very young roster. There's lots of reasons why they're struggling. Obviously, Justin Herbert is an incredible talent, is going to continue to develop. But they're in a very new stage here. They're still rebuilding. It shouldn't be a shock to anyone that they are where they are right now.
Okay, we got to move on. But before we do, I got to get my rock. You know what I'm saying? I feel powerless without my ball in my hand. Shout out to Wilson. Okay, now Russell Wilson, Pete Carroll, they have a Super Bowl together. They won a Super Bowl in Russell Wilson's second season. 144 starts, 149, starts they shared together. That's the 8th most in NFL history between a coach and a quarterback. Their first losing season. Every great relationship goes through some highs and it goes through some lows. But now people are telling me Russell Wilson should want out. All right, George Taylor, then answer me this. Where should Russ want to play next season?
Who dat?
Oh, gosh.
They need to go down to New Orleans, play with the Saints. One of my favorite cities in the country. I love New Orleans, but aside from it being a great city, it's also a great landing spot for Russell Wilson. Sean Payton is an offensive genius. They have a good defense there. They have a good culture. They have great ownership. It's a new start. This is a new world we're seeing with quarterbacks in the league. Quarterbacks never used to move. They finished their entire career, start and finish in one place. That was what was common. Now we're seeing all kinds of movement. I don't think Russell Wilson, the type of person that he is, the type of player that he is that he is going to stay in a situation in Seattle where they can't move forward or can't rebuild. I wouldn't be surprised if he stays there, but if he does leave, I do think that the Saints is the best landing spot for him.
Oh, no. Russell Wilson got to stay there. He got to clean up the mess that he made. They built the team around Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson wanted the team. They got rid of the Legion of Boom and all the loud guys so Russ could be comfortable being the leader. So, oh, no, Russ, you don't get to mess it up and then go leave your room. You're like one of my kids. Come back here, clean up this room and fix it. You're not going outside and playing until you do your chores. That's what Pete Carroll should tell Russell Wilson. No.
I love that. Well, from a team that is not good in the NFC to a team that is great in the AFC, the Tennessee Titans. Not only does Nashville have some incredible hot chicken, they have a hot running back, but unfortunately Derrick Henry has been on the bench. He's been on ice. Now, the Titans have played 7 games without Derrick Henry. They played 8 games with Derrick Henry. Somehow they're still 10-5, y'all. Second most wins in the AFC, winning their division, second seed in the playoffs as it stands right now, but ain't nobody talking about them boys. Bucky, why aren't the Titans getting the love?
Because when you watch them play, they're a little sleepy, right? They make you knock out, then you wake up and you're like, oh, the Titans won? Because there's nothing exciting about their style, yet their style is one that is really tricky for people to deal with. They're tough, they're physical, they have a great front line up front on defense. When Derrick Henry is playing, the running game is like no other. And then A.J. Brown is a young superstar that we don't talk about. And so they just win games, but it's not aesthetically pleasing. That is why we don't remember the Titans.
Good line, Bucky. They don't have a knockout punch. Obviously, they have some exciting players, but nobody really has a lot of respect for Ryan Tannehill until he pulls off a great run. They're also wildly inconsistent. They'll do what they did to the Niners, and they'll lose to the Steelers. And if you look at their numbers since they lost Derrick Henry, their offensive numbers have gone down significantly. So they are a jabber as a fighter. So wear you down, couple cuts. But there's no knockout punch with the Titans, and they're inconsistent. So while they do have the capability of making a long run, they don't really bring any fear to anybody without that guy on the field, and that's Derrick Henry.
Well, that will do it, y'all, for simple questions, complicated answers. At least I'm done asking them. I got one for y'all at home. If you're dining at a restaurant and you're waiting on the waiter, does that make you the waiter? Simple question. Coming up next, Damian Lillard, he talking about rings. Don't mean a thing? Make that make sense. We got some hot thoughts about that. Next on Speak for Yourself. Spin, please, ball, spin. Go to break before it dies. Go to break. Go. Oh, see? Y'all hung me out. Welcome back to Speak for Yourself. Now, the man behind me, Damian Lillard. Oh, he a bad man. But he said a quote that I absolutely disagree with. Dame Lillard said, I don't agree with the ring or bust thing. I don't subscribe to that narrative. Now, wait a second now, Dame. You telling me that you don't think rings mean a thing? I don't know. I mean, maybe we value rings too much, and maybe we value oxygen too much. I don't know. Maybe we value a ring too much. Maybe we value water too much. I don't know. Maybe we value a ring too much. Maybe we value money too much. That we might all actually value too much. Okay, anyway, rings. They've always meant something. Historically, rings first started in Egypt, y'all. Now, this ain't a history lesson, but you should at least know what you're talking about. Rings started in Egypt. Why? Because the circular symbol was a symbol of eternity. If you win a ring in the NBA or the NFL or any pro sports league, they gonna know you for the rest of time. But they also valued rings in Egypt because the circular shape reminded them it was reminiscent of the sun and the moon, two things in which people worship. If you win a title in the NBA or the NFL, then you are to some degree worshipped by the fans. Rings have always meant things in sports and outside of sports. So to me, I don't get how you can say that you don't subscribe to the narrative of winning a ring. But I got to bring in an NBA expert, been covering the game since 1993 for his thoughts. Slick Rick the Bucher, show up behind me, big dog. Slick Rick, my guy. Ooh, I like that. Purple on purple, very monochromatic. Slick Rick, do we put too much value in winning titles?
Yes, we put too much value on winning titles. We don't put enough value on winning. And there's a difference between the two. Winning rings is one thing. Winning games is another. And the idea that I believe that Damian Lillard is presenting, and I didn't know I was going to have to fight against an argument based on hieroglyphics in this, but I'm going to try nonetheless and take up for Damian Lillard, is that the ring doesn't define who he is as a player or his level of success. And that's where we are right now. So I'm going to throw a question to you, Acho, about this very thing. Over the last previous three seasons, who do you think has won more regular season games? Damian Lillard or LeBron James?
Probably LeBron?
Yes, LeBron. One more regular season game he's won than Damian Lillard. Who has been to the playoffs more times in the last 3 years?
I'll say
Damian Lillard or LeBron James?
Dame. LeBron missed a year.
Damian Lillard has
sir.
been all 3 times. LeBron has been only twice. Now, when we look at the context of these two gentlemen, what they've done over the previous 3 years, what are we thinking? Oh, what's wrong with Damian Lillard? Why hasn't he had more? Why hasn't he done something? As opposed to LeBron James, LeBron won a ring. It was in Orlando. It was in the bubble. It was with a 3-month layoff. But the fact of the matter is, we put so much emphasis on that ring that we miss who is actually winning. Damian Lillard is winning as much as he possibly could under the circumstances. In fact, I might make the argument that he's actually winning more than he should. 8 consecutive playoff appearances Damian Lillard has made with the Portland Trail Blazers, and we scoff at that. We laugh at that. We suggest that, well, what else do you have for me, Damian? And yet in a small market like Portland, 8 consecutive playoff appearances and going toe-to-toe with LeBron James in winning games, I would say is a pretty amazing accomplishment, and one that we should value more so than one run in the Magic Kingdom in Orlando to win a ring.
Slick. Well, you know what? Let me talk to Joy. Can I talk to Joy? I recently took an allergen test. I wanted to see, like, am I allergic to things? Pass. Wasn't allergic to anything. I just found out I'm allergic to nonsense. Because, Slick, that was absolute nonsense. But I still love you, Slick. Now, Joy, unfortunately, was saying some of the same sentiments as Slick Rick. Here's my thing, Joy. Winning in the regular season, it doesn't mean anything. Somebody could ask me, hey, Acho, how many regular season games did you win in the NFL? I don't know. I mean, I know I went to the playoffs once. Hey, Acho, how many regular season games did you win in college? I don't know. I know I went to a national championship once. I know I won a Big 12 title. I know I went to a Rose Bowl. I don't know how many regular season games I won, 37. I don't know that. So with that being said, like, we talking about winning in the regular season. Winning does not matter in sports unless you win a ring. How do we know that? Because when we talk about the greats who didn't win, the only reason we talk about them is because they didn't win, a la Dan Marino, a la Charles Barkley. The only reason we talk about those guys like, oh, yeah, they didn't. Who's the best to never have won? That's how we bring them up. Anyway, Joy, do we put too much value on winning a title?
I was listening to Rick, and I wasn't necessarily agreeing with everything you were saying, but now you're making me feel like I agree with Rick. Where I would disagree with you about the regular season is I think winning during the regular season, first of all, we know it matters. Otherwise, you wouldn't have playoff seeding. Otherwise, you wouldn't have home court advantage. So winning during the regular season absolutely matters in the course of the goals that you're building. We know what it means to win your division in football. Like that does matter. It's the first step in reaching your goal, which is winning a championship. So we align there. That's the ultimate goal, is winning a championship. But winning during the regular season certainly matters. And I think that if you are a player that is consistently a winner during the regular season, that's very important to the most important part of sports, which outside of winning is what? Fans. Fans care about you being a regular season winner. Fans care about going to games and being competitive. Fans care about having hope at the beginning of the season. So, yes, I think being a regular season winner is actually very important. But I do agree with you that the ultimate goal is to win a championship. I'm a competitive person. I don't even like playing beach volleyball with my friends unless we have the rules. Okay? We're not out there hitting the ball around. Who's the winner? Who's the loser? Is this the line? Is it in or out? If you just want to play around, don't be on my team because I'm trying to win. That's what this is all about. It's about competition. It's about reaching ultimate goals. So while I don't agree with you that the regular season is irrelevant, and even in the course of championships, it's very relevant, but I do agree that the ultimate goal is to win a championship. We're not all just participating in book club.
Well said, Joy. And I would think that you would still play beach volleyball. Yes, you want to win. Yes, you want to keep score. But if somebody said you're not going to win every game, would you still play? Yeah, you'd still play because you want to see how many games you can win. That's the whole thing. It's the challenge of being able to accomplish something. And let's get to the definition of nonsense. It makes no sense. Here's what makes no sense is the suggestion that the only reason that we talk about John Stockton or Karl Malone or Charles Barkley is because they haven't won a ring. What? That makes no sense. We talk about them because they were great players, and the one thing that is not in their cabinet, on their mantle, on their shelf, is a ring. And this is the difficulty here, because until now, with player empowerment, it wasn't always within the realm, and still isn't in many cases, in most cases, isn't within the realm of a player to determine whether he has a championship team around him. It's simply not. You either have that opportunity in a certain year, Houston Rockets, Hakeem Olajuwon, Michael Jordan retires, the door is open. An array of options or elements beyond the control of a player determines whether he is going to win a ring or not. So to say it's ring or bust, I 100% agree with Damian Lillard. But let's look at why we're having this conversation now, because player empowerment has become a thing. And the idea of I should do everything and anything possible to win a ring is what I need to do and should do. That's the only way I'm validated as a superstar player, right? So now it's, well, if I don't think I can win a ring here, if I don't think they're going to bring it to me, let me go join somebody else someplace else. For 7 years now, we have had that player empowerment. I would say that ever since LeBron left Miami and went back to Cleveland and said, trade Andrew Wiggins for Kevin Love and I'll come back and we'll try to make this happen. We've had 7 years of player empowerment, players not just joining other teams and joining other superstars, but basically dictating who's going to coach, who else is on the roster, the whole deal. 7 years. We got Kawhi Leonard with the Clippers. We've got Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving with the Brooklyn Nets. We've got LeBron both in Cleveland and now with the Lakers. Get me Anthony Davis. So that's 7 years and 4 teams that have worked on this premise that I have to do everything and anything to get a ring. And how many championships do we have out of those 7 years and those 4 teams? We have 2. The one where the Cavs backed into it, beating the Warriors in the series after falling behind 3-1, and we have the bubble championship in Orlando. So that's 2 out of 7. So for me to believe that this is what defines greatness and that players should just ring chase at all costs because otherwise they're not validated, you're going to have to give me a little more evidence than 2 rings
big dog.
in 7 years with 4 teams.
Slick, there's far too much winning on this set for me to allow this losers talk on this show. There's just far too much accomplishments between you I'm looking at, between Joy Taylor to my right, and between myself for us to allow this much loser spiel. Slick, when's the last time
Joy, be careful. He's trying to suck us in. He's trying to make us feel like he's friendly fire. Like, I'm with you guys. I love you guys. Let me help you guys. Yeah. Okay.
But Joy, when's the last time you went to a fast food restaurant? Week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks?
Yeah, let's call it 3 weeks.
3 weeks, bet. Slick, last time you went to call to Chick-fil-A. When the last time you went to a Chick-fil-A, big dog? Month, year, week, whatever the case may be.
Years.
Cool. Years. I went to Chick-fil-A yesterday. And when you walk into Chick-fil-A, if you look right, the very first thing that you all will see, go do it at your neighborhood Chick-fil-A or Popeyes. Mac and cheese is great. First thing you'll do at your neighborhood Chick-fil-A, you'll see is Employee of the Month. Why? Because we always highlight excellence. Whatever school you went to, whether it is Columbia, whether it's Cornell, whether it's Pepperdine, whether it's Texas, whatever the case may be, there's a valedictorian. Why? Because we always highlight excellence. For those of here watching the show that are people of faith, you can look into the Bible. All runners run a race, but only one receives a prize. So run as though you're trying to receive a prize. Why? Because we always highlight excellence. Yet here I am with 2 excellent individuals who refuse to acknowledge excellence. There's a point in winning. The only point you play sports is to win. Yes, you play to make money. Dame has lots of that. Some athletes play to attract people, significant others. Dame already got that. So at this junction in time, What is left for Dame to do except win a ring? Slick, people say they don't want something if they know they can't attain that thing. That's a bar, and I'll let that settle in for the viewers at home. People say they don't want something if they know they can't attain that thing. Joy Taylor, I think that's what Dame is doing right now, saying he doesn't want something because he knows only in Portland, because Dame is a dog, he can't attain it.
I feel like I'm in hot take church.
Somebody pass the offering.
They'll be attain that thing. Look, this is a very nuanced conversation. So we could probably do this for the next half an hour and still probably not agree on all of it. But to piggyback off of what Rick was just saying about player empowerment, that's sort of my issue-ish with the Dame situation. I don't have any problem with Dame staying with Portland and never winning a championship. It's not going to change anything about his legacy to me if he doesn't win a championship. He's still going to be an all-time great player. I agree with you. We talk about Dan Marino because he was an all-time great, because he was a legend. We talk about Jim Kelly because he was a legend. We talk about Charles Barkley because they were legendary, John Stockton, Karl Malone, so on and so forth. We all know they didn't win rings, but we know what they contributed to their sports. We know what they gave to the game. We know the excellence that we watched. We know the excellence that we watched when we see Damian Lillard. But we also know when we talk about him, if he stays in Portland, there is a good chance they won't win a championship because the nuance of the sport has changed because of player empowerment. Now, I understand what you're saying. There are still other ways to win a championship, right? Like we just saw the Bucks do it without, quote unquote, player empowerment. But Giannis is a freak. And they were able to put together some pieces, and they were perseverant with it. They were patient with it, and they did win a championship. And that's why I kind of push back on the player empowerment thing. Portland is a very unique situation. Do we think he's going to win a championship there? I don't think so. You have to look at the conference. Who will he have to overcome? Do they match up with the teams that they'll have to overcome? It is a tall task for him to win a championship there. It's not going to change how I view him as an excellent player. But at the end of the day, we are competing for championships here. We're not competing for regular season championships. We're not competing for individual awards. The purpose of a sport is to have a winner. If you are trying to win, you're trying to win a championship. Hence, you're chasing a ring. Because player empowerment has come into play, some players will choose to do it that way. Some players will choose to take the path that Giannis took with the Bucks, which, by the way, he may not continue to take forever. He may decide to leave and go and do the player empowerment thing. We don't know what's in store for his career. I don't judge Damian Lillard for staying with Portland, but winning a championship is the ultimate goal any way that you slice it.
Sure, and it's still a goal of Damian Lillard's to win a ring. He's not saying that he's not trying to win a ring or that he doesn't want a ring or that he doesn't value a ring. He's saying that if I don't get a ring, that doesn't determine whether I've been successful or not. And Acho, I have to go back to your fast food reference. And brother, I love you. I love your analogies. I truly do. Brings a whole different spin to the sports world. It's much appreciated.
Here it is.
But
there it is.
We got to use them accurately. So when we talk about a fast food franchise and we talk about the employee of the month, that's an individual award. Nobody is leaving a particular I'm not leaving Popeyes in order to go to this other franchise because you know what? They're winning franchise of the year. No, I'm going to stay where I am and I'm going to be the best employee I can be and I'm going to get my photo up on the wall by being the best I can be. And whether my franchise is the best or not is beyond my control. I am not the manager. I'm an employee. So I'm going to do the best I can with what I've got. And if people don't look at my franchise as being serving the best chicken in the damn country, I am okay with that because I am doing the best that I possibly can. And how that is a loser mentality, you're going to have to explain to me perhaps on some other show because we're probably out of time.
Look, if you don't care about winning rings and you just want to run around and jump, Dame Lillard should have ran track. But as long as he cares about winning these rings, then keep playing basketball. Coming up, one of the greatest voices in sports, Tom Rinaldi, joins us to talk about one of the greatest legends of sport. That is John Madden. That's next. Speak for yourself. It don't.
Hi, I'm John Madden. Hi, I'm John Madden.
Hi, I'm John Madden.
Hi, I'm John Madden.
Hi, I'm John Madden. Now, just in case there's any confusion on the subject, I'm here to help you learn how to watch football this fall. First of all, you bring over all your friends.
Television is all about human beings talking to human beings. John's magic was that he was educating the public. This was an occasion, this was an event.
So, that's just you. You sit right.
It was the great John Madden.
Decided you can go all over the place.
I enjoyed CBS. Thought I'd be there forever. Then I lost it. Going to Fox, it was something new and different. That's the part that I remember the most.
That's our All Madden linebackers. Now here's what else is coming up.
Wait a minute.
Welcome back to Speak for Yourself, where we are remembering the life of John Madden. Joined now by our very own Tom Rinaldi, who co-directed the All Madden documentary that first aired on Christmas Day on Fox and is re-airing tonight at 9 and 10:30 Eastern on FS1. I promise you do not want to miss that. Tom, thanks so much for joining us, my brother. How are you?
Acho, it is great to see you. It's been way too long. I give you a virtual hug, man. It's wonderful to be with you.
My man, will I virtually receive that embrace? Let's talk about John Madden. What is your greatest memory of John Madden?
I think, to be honest with you, Emmanuel, they were all created through the wonderful journey we were able to take over these 10 months in documenting John's life. That was our intention, to put together a documentary tribute. The catalyst for that came straight from the top of our company, from Eric Shanks, our CEO, who was a BA on John's crew, and Richie Zions, who's the producer of the lead Buck Aikman crew. And they loved John. They wanted to do this. They knew John was 85. And we're just so grateful, Emmanuel, that they, meaning John and his family, were able to watch this on Christmas morning, of course, without us having any idea that just a few days after we'd lose him. We're so grateful he was able to see it.
Yeah, now he clearly impacted the life of so many, as this project that you all just produced will as well. But how specifically did John Madden impact your life?
You know, I think in so many ways, in meeting him, the force of his personality and his authenticity leaps out. But there's three other ways, I think, Emmanuel, really quickly. One is John's curiosity. As soon as you sit with him, he wants to know all about you. Number two, he's a world-class storyteller. And believe me, we only got marginally into all the stories that John could have told that could have filled this up to be 3 times the length. And number three, I really think how beloved John was is pure. It's not overstated. Sometimes we sanctify folks. That wasn't the case here. Emmanuel, we put out 38 requests for this interview, for this documentary tribute. 38. We got 38 yeses. You know, you've been in this business a while now. That's not the standard.
Yeah. Can you put into context for maybe our younger viewer who knows John Madden through the video game Madden, can you put into context just how much John Madden meant to the game of football?
I think, Emmanuel, for a lot of the younger generation, they may not even know that John is a man who's a Hall of Fame coach. He's a brand on a video game. And we had such a great time talking to him about the video game. I'll ask you, what was the moment like when you first saw yourself, Acho, in the game? What was that like for you?
Man, so it would have been Madden 12 when I get drafted to the Cleveland Browns. And for those that don't know, if you're not one of the star players, Ronaldo, you got to find yourself on the roster. And so I found myself at linebacker. I was a 68 overall rating. It's fine. I still made myself a starter. Yes, I did. I was on the Browns, so I could kind of just hide in with the rest of our roster. Nobody was probably going to Madden and selecting the Cleveland Browns unless you're from Cleveland. But man, Madden, it impacted my life, Ronaldo, because even I tell this story. My parents were born and raised in Nigeria. Ronaldo, you know this. You and I have talked at length several times. And so I didn't grow up playing football as we know it. I grew up playing the game of soccer. And in 1999, I had my first Madden game, and I learned how to play football by playing Madden the defensive plays, engage 8, an all-out blitz with 3 defensive backs over the top. Or in 2005, Rinaldi, when I switched from defensive end to linebacker because Ray Lewis was on the cover of Madden 2005. And now I wear jersey number 52 after seeing Ray Lewis, Rinaldi, and I go to YouTube and I start watching linebacker tapes of Ray Lewis. I didn't realize until the tragedy we all saw last night that he impacted my life in ways I hadn't even cognitively thought of and reflected on. And so his legacy, I think, across several generations, it truly meant so much. In particular to your career, because if I can give you your flowers right now, we don't do a good enough job of giving people their flowers. You're one of the greatest storytellers in sports. You're one of the greatest voices in sports. You're one of the greatest orators in sports. You've impacted my career. How did John Madden specifically impact yours? Was there a moment? Was there a quote? Was there a conversation with him? Take me back to the place where you remember this had an impact on me.
We did the sit-down interview with him, Emmanuel. But before I even answer that, I just think you speak for so many and so well about what the game has meant. And John at core, Emmanuel, his spirit would be smiling and embracing you right now because what he wanted most was to teach the game and have you not feel like you were being lectured to. Like instead, you were just being surrounded and enveloped by the joy that he felt for this great game. And I know for me, having had this opportunity with our fantastic co-director, Joel Santos, who I know you know, and the job that John did in sitting down with us and telling these stories, we were just so struck ultimately by his humility that at the end of the documentary, we'd asked every person to give John a message. We show a handful of them in the final act of the documentary. And John watched those and said, I think I realized some things I never realized before. I genuinely don't think he understood, perhaps until seeing and hearing so many voices, this chorus pay tribute to him, all that he meant to the game and to the people whose lives have really been built around it.
Rinaldi, real quick, did you all ever dive into the Madden bus? I think those who have forgotten over the years, John Madden did not fly by airplane. Did he tell you about that story? Can you just share with our viewers the Madden bus?
So there's been so much mythology about it, Acho, no question. John was a claustrophobic, and any tight space made him anxious his entire life. He dealt with it as a coach with the Raiders. But then after he left, he was on a turbulent flight. He suffered a panic attack, less from the turbulence than from the claustrophobic feeling. And he made a promise to himself, if this plane lands and I'm able to walk off, I'll never get on another flight. And he never did. The first Madden Cruiser was Dolly Parton's old tour bus. Can't make it up. One other quick thing about the bus, Acho. He had an encyclopedia of wildflowers in a drawer inside the bus. Why? Because John Madden was literally that guy. When he saw a field of flowers, he'd talk to his driver, Willie Yarborough, his beloved friend. He'd ask to pull over. John would walk out, look at the flowers, and identify them. The guy that literally stopped to smell the flowers, John Madden.
Amazing. Well, Tom Rinaldi, you are a legend to me, my friend, and thank you for being here as we remember the life, the legacy, and the legend that is John Madden. More speak for yourself, right? Go ahead, Rinaldi, all you.
Just real quick, not that you remember that Madden rating or anything. Not that stuck with you or anything.
Hey,
just saying.
I'll never forget. And you better believe, Rinaldi, when I was a free agent, I found myself in free agency. I signed myself to the roster, and I kept playing the game with me there. John Madden wasn't going to let me be a free agent, not as long as that game was around. Appreciate you, Rinaldi. All right, brother.
Thanks, Acho.
Yo, it's more Speak for Yourself after the break. We'll see you. Welcome back to Speak for Yourself. Now, if you haven't been up to date, the CDC guidelines and the NFL rules have changed. They have reduced the COVID quarantine time for players who test positive. It was 10 days. It is now 5 days. This will apply to all asymptomatic players, regardless of vaccination status. Now, this isn't just a small deal. In my mind, this is a huge deal. Why? Because the NFL is great because of parity. That's why the NFL is the greatest sports league in the world, in my mind. If you win the Super Bowl, you draft last. If you're the worst team in the league, you draft first. There's a salary cap. Parity. The NFL is built and predicated upon parity. I talked to my lawyer once. He told me this. Acho, you don't have a contract for when things go good. You have a contract for when things go bad. Right now, COVID and the variant has caused things to go bad, but the NFL hasn't stuck to the contract because it has changed the rules, which has changed the parity. The biggest game on the regular season this year, it's indisputable. The biggest game this year was between the Packers and the Chiefs. It was the biggest game because it was between the two best teams. Leader of the NFC, Packers. Leader of the AFC, Chiefs. That was the biggest game this year. But the best player, at least based upon the MVP last year and MVP frontrunner this year, wasn't on the field. And why wasn't Aaron Rodgers on the field? Because of COVID and the guidelines that stood on the time. So to change the guidelines right now is to undermine the parity that makes the greatest sport in the world the greatest sport in the world. That's how I feel. But Joy Taylor, what's your reaction to the NFL reducing the quarantine time to 5 days?
So the NFL isn't just arbitrarily changing the rules. We are in a pandemic, as we know, and things are changing day by day. So the CDC, who is supposed to tell us what to do, is telling us now things are different. So we're changing them. These aren't rules like the catch rule or how many players you can have on the field or what's a penalty and what's not a penalty. This is about a pandemic, which is much bigger than the NFL. So the idea that the NFL is like changing the rules and making it unfair at a time when it wasn't fair to somebody else, and this is not about fair. This is not about parity. This is about life and death and health and safety protocols for not just the NFL, but the entire world, because it bothers me to no extent when we talk about this as if this is an American problem. It is all around the world. COVID is. It's not an American thing. It's not an American conspiracy. The government didn't cook it up. It's happening all over the entire globe. So, being that the NFL is a billion-dollar organization dealing with players who are around each other in masses and fans who are in masses and coaches and so on and so forth, they have a responsibility to do what's realistically safe for as many people as possible. When we talk about the NFL, we have to keep in perspective, we're not just talking about players. You're talking about coaches, assistant coaches. You're talking about team staff. You're talking about staff within the organization that has to do things behind the scenes that we don't see. You're talking about stadium staff. It goes on and on and on and on when you make these protocol changes. So this is not about fair. Everyone is trying to navigate this. I understand, I'm not the, no, I'm a little condescending when I talk about this, and it's very difficult for me, so bear with me. I understand that change is difficult for people. I am not one of those people. Change is very normal to me. I'm very comfortable with it. I wouldn't say that I embrace it, but I handle it in a pretty rational way because I am aware of its constant existence. In these unprecedented times, it is very scary for people to understand that things are constantly changing. But everything can't be a conspiracy. Everything can't be a lie. I'm very busy, Emmanuel. I can't keep up with all these conspiracies. The CDC has said that it's changed. Therefore, the NFL should change it as well. It can't be about what's fair. Nothing is fair right now.
Let me slightly not push back, but let me slightly try to illuminate further. I have no issue with what you're saying if the CDC would have made the guidelines more stringent, right? Because if we're realizing, hey, there's an outbreak, so let's crack down and tighten things up for the sake of health, because health should trump fairness. But it's actually that the NFL has made the guidelines more loose. Hey, rather than a 10-day quarantine period, make it 5 days if you're asymptomatic. So I agree wholeheartedly with you if we were changing for the sake of tightening down, but we're loosening.
You and I are not doctors. The CDC is making these recommendations, not the NFL. The NFL is reacting to what the CDC said. And the reason why the CDC is making it looser rather than tighter is because we are now in a different space. It has changed again. This new variant, from all the information that we are getting, and clearly from what the CDC has said, is while it is wildly contagious, it is not as punitive. The entire reason why all of this is happening, why all of this happened, why we are dealing with this for the last 2 years is because people were what? Dying. This variant is not as punitive, especially to vaccinated people. So I'm not finna argue with the CDC. All this time, I'm just a person doing what I do, working how I work, living my life, doing what I'm told. Not because I'm a sheep person, but because I happen to be actually very busy. I don't have time for Reddit. So the CDC has said, this is what it is. The NFL is reacting. The idea that they should be being more stringent if we have a different variant doesn't make any sense. The circumstances have changed. Therefore, the protocols have changed. Therefore, the NFL and NBA and so forth are going to react to what the doctors recommend.
I would keep arguing with you, but I have no idea what punitive means. So I got to talk about Mac Jones, because coming up, I'm going to tell you all this one very interesting statistic I found out this morning, which leaves me and will lead you to being worried about Mac Jones hitting a rookie wall. You're going to want to hear this. That's next. Speak for yourself. Punitive. Use that in a sentence, please. Has Mac Jones, quarterback for the New England Patriots, hit a rookie wall? Yes, but he should have. He's played 28 games in the last 15 months. Historically, that's the most ever. Why? Y'all remember Mac Jones' senior year at Alabama? Well, it started late because of COVID. First game wasn't played until September. In August is when training camp started. Well, guess what? Mac Jones was so good at Alabama, he went to a national championship game, which was on January 10th. By January 30th, Mac Jones is playing in the Senior Bowl. Sure, he can rest after that. Oh, wait, he can't. He has to get ready for Pro Day, have the NFL draft in April, early May. Then he has to go compete with Cam Newton for a starting job. Incredibly strenuous. He wins the starting job. Now he's starting opening day and has been going and going and going ever since. We've seen Mac Jones' performance start to deteriorate as of late. So many people are wondering why. Have defenses figured him out? Maybe Mac Jones just isn't that good. No, that's not it, y'all. 28 games, 15 days, 15 months. Imagine having to work for 2 straight years and not even getting no time off, let alone paid time off. Mac Jones is just a little tired, and I think he's hit a wall. I'm worried, but Joy Taylor, how worried are you about Mac Jones having hit a wall?
You saying McCorkle's tired?
McCorkle, is that his nickname?
That's what Mama call him, McCorkle. MJ10 is not tired. He's a rookie. None of this should be surprising to anybody. This was my question with Mac Jones all along, all jokes aside. We're talking about the Patriots and the momentum that they were on and the winning streak that they were on and how far can they go? Can they win multiple playoff games with Mac Jones? They found the new Tom Brady. He's Tom Brady-esque. Relax. He's a rookie. He's going to struggle like all rookies do. What happened in these past couple games? He's having to play from behind. He's having to push it a little bit more. He's dealing with different kind of coverages. The game is still new to him. Yes, you can have some success with Bill Belichick, the greatest coach of all time, putting great game plans in place for you. I think that the Bills game was a great example. The first one was a great example of the brilliance of Bill Belichick and taking it out of his hands. And Mac Jones, to his credit, showed an egoless response to that. I think he has done a tremendous job in the situation that he is in, which was the highest pressure situation of all the rookies coming into the league this year. But he's still a rookie. So nothing about this should cause any kind of panic. The expectation should not have been Super Bowl for this team to begin with. They have a rookie quarterback. Let's be reasonable about this. He is playing other professionals, by the way, that do have a lot of experience. There are some other defensive coordinators around the league that can drum up some stuff for a rookie quarterback. So I don't think there's anything to panic about. He's fine. He's 9th in completion percentage in the league. He's middle of the road in all other categories, as he should be as a rookie. He's going to be Offensive Rookie of the Year. He's had a really great season. They may still make the playoffs, and they might even still make some noise in the playoffs. But nothing that's happening with Mac Jones is particularly surprising.
My only retort, I do believe Jamar Chase should win Offensive Rookie of the Year, so Bengals, don't tweet at me. However, I'm not worried as it pertains to the entirety of Mac Jones' career, not at all. But I'm worried as it pertains to this season. Patriots had a 7-game win streak before the Chiefs had a 7-game win streak. Patriots were rolling. I don't think his struggles as of late are exclusively because they figured him out. I think it's more so the hardest thing people don't realize about going from your rookie year to your NFL year, you experienced it with your brother and seeing that from that peripheral view, is you don't get rest. I played at Texas through my senior year. Then I played in the Holiday Bowl out here in San Diego. Then I had to get ready for the Senior Bowl, invited to that game. Then I had to get ready for the NFL Combine a month later. Then I had to get ready for the NFL Draft. Then I was drafted to Cleveland, so I was a rookie. I had to go to rookie minicamp. Now, because you're a rookie, you got to report to training camp early. Then you got to go through the whole season in Cleveland, and you don't get a break until the end of your rookie season.
You're young. You got energy for that. Remember when you were young, you used to go out all night? Well, you didn't used to go out all night. But when I was young, I used to go out all night, get up, work in the morning, do the internship, go to 2 other jobs. It's fine. You have plenty of energy. Now I need a coffee to get through 2 hours of the day. He's fine. I understand what you're saying. It's a lot all at once. But that is actually my point that I'm agreeing with you. He is a rookie. You are dealing with a lot. You're adjusting to the speed of the game. Him hitting a wall should not be surprising, even with their 7-game winning streak.
I understand. Well, Mac Jones is a rookie, still has a lot to prove. But one man who lived a life and proved everything is the legend, John Madden. And coming up, I will share one final thought on the icon that was synonymous with football, John Madden. We'll see you shortly. Welcome back to Speak for Yourself. There is only one proper way to close this show, and that's once again remembering the legend and the life that was John Madden. Again, for those like me who grew up in America, but with parents not born here who didn't really know anything about the game of football, John Madden was the greatest, the purest, the best teacher there was. Whether it was in the broadcast booth, on the sideline as a coach, or on a video game, so many, like me, benefited from the life, from the knowledge, and from the legacy of John Madden. You lived this life to the fullest, so John Madden, I salute you. That's it for us. Speak for yourself. See you next.